Hey there everyone, DT has returned from a long hiatus. I'm very sorry about that. You know, I'm a husband and a father, life. But I'm back with more toy reviews, and today we're going to be looking at NECA's RoboCop with holster action. Now first off, let me point out that this figure is very different from the RoboCop toys that were available when I was a kid. Kenner was producing a line of action figures which were, marketed towards children because they knew that kids were watching this movie. And strangely enough, that line eventually fizzled out, just like all the other R-rated kids' toys. And more adult collector companies like NECA and Max Factory and other companies, other brands like that, ended up picking up RoboCop license, and here we go. This is from NECA. This was first released in 2011, I believe. This is a reissue in this fancy box right here. You see there's RoboCop right there. There we go, holster action RoboCop. There's the OCP logo. There's more RoboCop right there. Sorry, it's my terrible Peter Weller impression. And of course, here's the box, the back of it. And here's, part man, part machine, all cop. The future of law enforcement. Stay out of trouble. Sorry, RoboCop is one of my all-time favorite movies. Of course, it's the story about a cop who becomes a RoboCop after he crossed paths with Red Foreman. And very sadly and very graphically is blown to bits, literally blown to pieces by, hundreds of gunshots in one of the most brutal, shoot-'em-up scenes to come out of the 1980s that I've come across yet. And, of course, OCP, who has a contract with Detroit Metropolitan Police, end up, gathering what's left of him. He's barely alive. They keep him alive just long enough to modify him into RoboCop. That's right. And first off, NECA's RoboCop is... This sculpt is gorgeous. Everything. The detail, the visor, you can even see the... it's not really focusing all that well. I wish you could see it. But you can actually see the OCP logo right there going across his head. They branded him for sure. He's just a walking corporate mascot. Which the movie's a sci-fi action satire, so there's a lot of comedy in it that kind of pokes fun at at things like the media, and it's a fun movie. I love it. But this figure it's a perfect replica of RoboCop, I would say. It's beautiful. Sculpting is amazing on this guy. And of course the beautiful paint job, the nice, metallic finish going over, he's all shiny in the robotic parts, and of course the black parts like the hands, the inner joints and everything, and the abdomen, his groin right there, yeah, and everything else. Everything is just spot on. And probably the best detail of this figure is the fact that they use the nice flesh tone color right here. I don't know why my shit's not focusing. I'm very sorry. But I will say that they perfectly capture the lower half of Peter Weller's face. It's uncanny. Very impressive, NECA. Let's get into articulation on this guy. The legs right here move pretty freely. They go, well, not so much. Out a little bit like this, but they can go up and down like that real easily. Of course, you have the knee right there, and a tiny bit of movement in the ankle. Now, one thing I gotta say, watch out for these. These parts right here, these, I guess they would be, I don't really know. These shock absorbers or whatever. Yeah, you gotta watch them because they tend to fly out, come off and like this, and fly off really easily. As a matter of fact, when I first got them and I opened them up, these pieces were completely off and in the box under the blister pack, and I'm glad I found them because I could have thrown them out like I do with the twisty ties and stuff, because I hate twisty ties. But I didn't. I noticed them right away, and I was like, oh shit, these gotta go here. So, and right here, the waist right here, well, not really the waist, but like in between the chest and the abdomen, there's a nice right there. It doesn't really move too much. I mean, that's the thing, it's RoboCop. He doesn't really move around too much in the film, so you don't really need a whole lot of articulation. The arms are pretty cool though. Shoulders kind of pop out like, no, not really pop, but come out like that a little bit. Of course, they could do wee like this, the usual. The elbows kind of a limited range of movement in the elbows. Well, this one's a bit more than the right. And of course, this particular piece right here can move around like that. You know, he's got to be able to. Whatever. However, this does not work on this arm. It is sculpted in there. Or actually, I think it might be a separate piece that's glued. I can't tell. My camera's not focusing. I'm sorry. And of course, the head, I can move down, up just a little tiny bit, and then, of course, you know, just like Peter Weller. I f***ing love this guy! RoboCop is a moderately gimmicky figure that comes with a few accessories. First off, this particular part right here, the arm can come out like that. Oop, popped out really nice and easy. Usually that thing is hard as hell. And then, of course, here's this extra one right here with a data spike right there, which RoboCop uses in the film to access restricted police files from the mainframe and, of course, you know, stab people like Red Foreman right in the jugular. And upon closer inspection, this is pretty cool looking. It's got a nice sculpt. Paint's pretty basic, not a whole lot to it, but then again, you know, it's very screen accurate. That's how it looked. RoboCop's a simple RoboCop. Okay, now for the part you've all been waiting for, the main gimmick, the selling point for this particular figure. If you're a fan of the film, if you've seen it, you know that RoboCop has a built-in holster in his leg right here. It's pretty badass. As a matter of fact, what you do is there's a little button right here, a little lever right here. I keep forgetting which way to push this damn thing. I think you push it up. You push it up, and boom! Pops open like this. I was holding down so it wouldn't, you know, fly open. Like, you know, sometimes the gun flies out, and you don't want that to happen. So exercise caution when you do that. As a matter of fact, sometimes if you are even the slightest bit careless with it, these parts will kind of come off a little bit, and they are a pain to put back together. Trust me. And then, of course, here is RoboCop's custom-made machine pistol. It's just a basic plastic, kind of a nicely detailed sculpt. Again, screen accurate, just like the rest of them. No particular special, you know, coloring on it. It's just plain black. And here, to close this, I recommend putting this particular piece down first, real slowly, and then putting that part down as this almost clicks in, and boom, there you go, it's closed. And another word of warning, exercise caution with this. This piece is just a little flimsy. And, of course, let's get back up here. RoboCop's primary arm, not the one with the data spike. You just place the gun in there, the machine pistol in there like so, because it's sculpted specifically to hold it. And then even the trigger goes, or the finger, sorry, goes right in the trigger. And there you go, you got RoboCop ready to go enforce the law. Your move, creep. Interestingly enough, I came across this guy at one of the local Walmarts, which was like a shock to me. It was near the checkout lane, and I was getting ready to check out. You know, I bought some essentials, and I saw this RoboCop, and all I can think to myself was, dead or alive, you're coming with me. So I ended up getting it, and I took him home, and can't say I regret this purchase at all. I really liked it. And I still like him. He's my buddy. So let's get a measurement in, as a matter of fact. I didn't do that yet. He's a standard scale NECA figure. He's not super large, but he's also definitely not small. Why don't we get him out? He is in the 7-inch scale. He's about maybe, I guess translate to metrics, he's under 20 centimeters. So he's a decent scale. That's pretty much what you'd expect from NECA, even though for some reason their Godzilla figures are a little bit shorter. I don't know why. That's okay, though. But, yeah, he's a decent size. Bigger than the Kenner ones that were available when I was a kid. So, as a matter of fact, RoboCop and I have a very interesting history. Growing up, I really wasn't allowed to watch RoboCop, but I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I was staying at my cousin's house for a weekend, and he owned it on VHS. He was allowed to watch stuff like that. He was allowed to watch, like, you know, Child's Play and the Friday the 13th movies and Nightmare on Elm Street. He was allowed to watch all that shit, and I was a little jealous. So I'm just like, yeah, can we watch RoboCop? And he's like, yeah, my aunt and uncle are like, yeah, sure, put it in. And we're watching it, and got about halfway through the film, and my parents arrived to come and take me home, and they were infuriated. They were infuriated that I was watching this horribly violent film that they regarded as trash cinema. And so the whole 10 or 15 minute drive home was just me getting yelled at for watching it. Needless to say, the thing about it, I only saw half, but I wanted more. I loved it. I don't know what the big deal was, honestly. I mean, America Werewolf in London and Arnold Schwarzenegger flicks were okay in our household, but there was a very strict no RoboCop rhetoric that was very enforced. I will say that. But I ended up catching the movie some years later on USA Network. Of course, it was edited for television, but I watched it and I adored it. It became one of my all-time favorite movies. And maybe a few years ago, I ended up acquiring the Blu-ray of the unrated cut of RoboCop. And so all in all, NECA's RoboCop is pretty cool. I know they have also released other versions of RoboCop. They did an 8-bit one. They did some with other gimmicks. The only thing about this figure is that it could have used an accessory like maybe an interchangeable head, or the faceplate could come off, the visor could come off, because there's like a good, like almost half-hour chunk of the movie where RoboCop has this portion of his robot head off, and Murphy or Peter Weller's face is exposed. So that would have been kind of cool if they would have included that accessory. But I believe they did release other versions of RoboCop that did have that one. Just sadly, this one doesn't. But I'm sure something ended up with that accessory. In conclusion, I'd buy that for $1. No, this figure's really cool, and I want to thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, especially if you sat through the whole thing. Man, if you like what you saw, you can click like. If not, I don't know, dislike or just not react. I don't really care. If you want to see more, subscribe, because there will be more. I want to thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you all again soon, and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.